Now, France's decision to impose a tax on the world's biggest tech companies to come into the spotlight once again later on as finance ministers from the G7 group of rich countries are meeting near Paris. The regulation of cryptocurrencies like Facebook's Libra will also be up for discussion. Our business editor Stephen Carroll is here to tell us a bit more. Stephen, France really did go out on its own somewhat with this tax on tech companies, and it's hoping to win more international support, isn't it?
So the measure passed by the French Parliament last week imposes a 3% tax on digital revenues from some of the world's biggest tech companies. The United States notably not very happy about that. The US Trade Representative is investigating whether the measure is unfair to American companies, and if so, they could eventually impose tariffs as a result of it. Now, as the host of this G7 finance ministers meeting, Bruno Le Maire, the French finance minister, intends to continue his defence of this project. He's going to be meeting the US Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin a little bit later. In an interview published in today's Le Figaro newspaper, Mr. Le Maire said that he will tell Steven Mnuchin that France is a sovereign state that decides its own tax policy, and that is something that he has already said to Steven Mnuchin, and he said that he'll be saying it again to him when they meet later.
So how likely do you think it is that he'll get support from other countries at that G7 meeting?
There is a general agreement that the current tax system doesn't work when it comes to these big digital companies. Of the other countries that will be present at the meeting, the UK already has a plan for a digital tax to come into force in the coming years. Germany and Italy have supported the idea at a European level. The G20 as well last month also said that they support the idea of overhauling this tax system. But there isn't even EU-wide agreement on this. The OECD, which is the organisation that develops policy for developed countries, they're coming up with a proposal on this. There are countries within Europe that want to wait for that to happen before they move ahead with this plan, that OECD plan due next year. Bruno Le Maire says, though, that if there isn't agreement at this meeting of G7 finance ministers, it's very difficult to see how they'll be able to proceed at an OECD level later on. The French government also going to be pushing for the idea of a minimum rate of taxation for multinational companies. Le Maire saying that he wants that as between 13 and 15%. That's a very big plan. It's difficult to see how there'll be agreement found on that.